The bike fun begins. The silverware shone, reflecting Leo's harried movements as he buffed each piece with enough force to threaten its structural integrity. He dreamed of freedom on 2 wheels, a cherry-red bike, a 21-speed marvel with full suspension, blurring down Maple Street. He'd be king of the road, or at least, king of the cul-de-sac. Pausing, he caught his reflection in a spoon's concave surface, stretching his lips into what he hoped resembled a welcoming smile. It looked more like a wince. He tried again, calling to mind Mrs. Gable's breathtaking roses. Better, almost genuine. Rose floated into the dining room, humming an off-kilter melody and balancing a stack of crisp napkins. Someone's got ants in their pants, she teased, setting down her load. Don't polish all the shine off before anyone gets here. Just prepping, Leo muttered, snatching a notepad and pen. He cleared his throat, attempting a practiced greeting. Greetings, esteemed patron, what culinary delights may I procure for you this fine day? He cringed. Stiff. Rose gently mussed his hair. Easy there, tiger. Just be you. A smile is half the battle. Listen closely, anticipate needs, a coffee top-up before they ask, perhaps a tempting suggestion from the specials. Above all, treat everyone like gold, no matter their mood. He nodded, trying to internalize her wisdom. It sounded straightforward coming from her. But what if he bungled it? Scolded someone with coffee? Blanked on an order? The vibrant image of the bike flickered, replaced by a rapid-fire sequence of kitchen catastrophes. The bell above the door chimed, heralding the arrival of Mr. Henderson, whose loyalty to blueberry pancakes bordered on religious. Rose winked, a silent go-get-them passing between them. Mr. Henderson, his kind face framed by perpetually disheveled hair, gave Leo a warm smile. Well, if it isn't the newest member of the Maxwell's crew. Emboldened, Leo returned the smile genuinely. Blueberry pancakes hitting the spot today, Mr. Henderson. A delighted chuckle. You know the way to a man's heart, Leo. And a coffee, black as night. He jotted down the order, feeling a small jolt of triumph. 1 down, countless to go. He imagined a jar steadily filling, emblazoned with the words, Bike Fund. The initial trickle of customers soon swelled into a torrent. The lunch rush crashed over them. The diner vibrated with the murmur of conversations, the clatter of flatware, and the tantalizing sizzle emanating from the grill. Rose, a human dynamo, navigated the chaos with practiced grace, replenishing beverages and delivering steaming plates. Leo fought to keep pace, his notepad a flurry of frantic scribbles, his brain overloaded. 2 BLTs, hold the mayo. Chicken pot pie, stat. Cheeseburger, fries on the side. Jet black coffee, double sweet. The orders hammered him like a hailstorm. He committed the cardinal sin of mixing up orders, presenting a tuna melt to Mrs. Gable, who'd requested the soup du jour. He neglected to deliver ketchup to a demanding table. He nearly sent Mrs. Peterson sprawling with a clumsy pass. The bike fund felt impossibly distant. He felt submerged, disoriented, utterly inept. He yearned for the sanctuary of his bedroom, controller in hand, a universe away from this culinary combat zone. He loathed this. It bore no resemblance to his fantasies. Rose, sensing his unraveling, laid a reassuring hand on his arm. Breathe, Leo. 1 step at a time. We'll ride this out. She gestured toward a lone, grey-haired gentleman occupying a corner table, quietly nursing a cup of joe. Table 6 looks a little lonely. How about offering him a refill? He wavered, then nodded. Perhaps a small act of kindness was within his reach. He grabbed the carafe, steeled himself, and approached table 6. A simple cup of coffee. The diner door announced a customer with a tinny chime, nearly lost beneath the cacophony of midday appetites being satisfied. Leo, a human tower of loaded plates, barely acknowledged it. Be right there, he called, voice tight. He deposited the feast at table 6, narrowly missing Mrs. Henderson's cavernous handbag, and pivoted, ready for the next onslaught. That's when he noticed him. A wisp of a man stood just inside, clutching a crumpled paper sack. The oversized suit draped him like a forgotten flag. His face, a landscape of wrinkles and faded color, held eyes that were pale blue pools, seemingly searching for something unseen. Leo suppressed a groan. Just what he needed, another slowpoke clogging the arteries of his lunch service. The hungry horde was relentless, and he was its sole provider. "One moment," Leo offered, already heading toward the coffee station. He could almost taste the blissful oblivion of his afternoon break, sprawled on his worn couch, lost in the colorful pages of Cosmic Frontiers. That vision spurred him onward. The man edged forward, each footfall a labored endeavor. He paused at the counter, a few feet away, and waited with quiet dignity. Leo, meanwhile, battled the coffee machine, now spewing hot droplets in protest. "Terrific," he muttered, swiping at the mess. At last, he managed a lukewarm pour. He turned, ready to snap. "What'll you have?" The question died in his throat. The man's gaze conveyed such profound vulnerability, it stopped him cold. Just a coffee, son," the man croaked, his voice like dry reeds rustling in the wind. He fumbled in his pocket, extracting a handful of crumpled bills and scattered coins. His fingers trembled as he began to count. Leo scanned the swelling line of impatient customers. Mr. Johnson, the hardware store tyrant, was tapping a furious rhythm on the table, his face a gathering storm. A wave of aggravation washed over him. "Hold on," Leo mumbled, grabbing a chipped mug. He plunked it on the counter with unnecessary force. He filled it, the aroma, usually a comfort, now a nagging interruption. He slid the mug forward, avoiding eye contact. $1.50, he stated curtly. The old man carefully arranged the coins, his movements measured. "Thank you, son," he murmured, eyes lowered. He took the coffee, his hand unsteady, and shuffled towards a vacant table in the quietest corner, far from the midday clamor. He eased into the chair, which creaked under his weight. Leo watched him briefly, a fleeting twinge of conscience surfacing. But the distinct sound of Mr. Johnson clearing his throat brought him back to the present. The lunch rush was a demanding taskmaster, and Leo, a dutiful slave. He turned his back on the solitary figure and plunged back into the fray, the promise of cosmic frontiers dimming with each shouted order. Too busy for kindness. The lunch rush had hit Maxwell's diner like a tidal wave. Leo, usually buzzing with cheerful energy, was now a tightly wound spring. He darted between tables, balancing plates piled high with burgers and fries, his apron smeared with ketchup and grease. Mrs. Gable wanted extra pickles, Mr. Henderson needed more coffee, and the Smith twins were staging a ketchup packet battle. He finally reached the counter, where Art Peterson was patiently waiting, his hands clasped on the warm wood. Leo barely glanced at him. "Art, hey! Listen, can you come back later? Like, way later? I'm swamped." He gestured wildly at the chaotic scene behind him. "Seriously, slammed. Gotta keep these folks happy, you know." Art blinked slowly, his blue eyes, usually twinkling with a gentle light, seemed to dim. The corners of his mouth, etched with years of quiet smiles, drooped slightly. He'd been standing there for a while, Leo realized belatedly, the telltale sign being the faint condensation ring his glass had left on the counter. "Oh," Art said softly, his voice barely audible above the din. "I just wanted a small coffee, Leo. And maybe one of those apple fritters you make." Leo winced inwardly. An apple fritter. It would take him all of 5 minutes, maybe less. But Mrs. Gable was waving frantically, demanding her pickles, and the Smith twins were now flinging ketchup at each other, coating the pristine checkered floor in a sticky red mess. "Art, I really can't right now. Look at this place. It's insane. Come back after 2:30, okay? Things should be quieter then." He forced a bright, albeit strained, smile. The light in Art's eyes flickered again, then seemed to extinguish completely. He nodded once, a small, almost imperceptible movement. "All right, Leo. I understand." He turned slowly, his shoulders slumping slightly, and shuffled towards the door. Leo watched him go, a twinge of guilt pricking at his conscience. Art was a regular, always polite, always patient. He never complained, never caused trouble. He was the perfect customer. But Mrs. Gable was still waving, and Mr. Henderson was tapping his empty coffee cup impatiently. Leo sighed, pushing the guilt aside. He had a business to run. Kindness would have to wait. He would make it up to Art later. He always did. Right now, he had paying customers to appease, and tips to earn. He plunged back into the fray, the image of Art's disappointed face already fading from his mind, lost in the clamor of the lunch rush. Grandma Rose's disappointment. The clatter of dishes and the murmur of lunchtime conversation faded as Rose watched Art shuffle out of the diner. He hadn't touched his coffee, hadn't even been offered a menu. A wave of disappointment washed over her, a cold splash in the warmth of the bustling room. Leo, usually so attentive, was nowhere to be seen, probably lost in one of his whirlwind projects at the counter. She pushed herself up from the booth, her joints protesting with a familiar ache. The scent of frying bacon and brewing coffee, usually comforting, now felt heavy, laced with a bitter tang. She found Leo hunched over a stack of flyers near the cash register, brow furrowed in concentration, a pencil tucked behind his ear. "Leo, dear," she said, her voice gentle but firm. He startled, nearly knocking over a ceramic sugar dispenser. "Grandma Rose. Sorry, didn't see you there. Just finishing up these flyers for the Veterans Day Parade. Want to get the word out, make sure everyone knows." He beamed, his eyes sparkling with an enthusiasm that usually charmed her. "That's wonderful, Leo," she replied, keeping her tone even. "But I just saw Mr. Peterson leaving. He didn't seem to have been served." Leo's smile faltered. He glanced towards the door, a flicker of guilt crossing his face. "Oh. Yeah, well, things got a little hectic. We had that rush from the construction crew, and Mrs. Henderson wanted her eggs over easy, but not too runny, you know how it is." He waved a hand dismissively, already turning back to his flyers. Rose placed a hand on his arm, stopping him. Her touch was light, but Leo knew that grip. It meant she wasn't letting him off the hook. "Leo, Mr. Peterson is a regular. He always gets a black coffee and a quiet corner. It wouldn't have taken more than a minute." He sighed, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. "I know, Grandma Rose, I know. It's just, I was really focused on these flyers. I want this parade to be perfect, a real tribute. He probably just didn't need anything. He comes every day." Rose's gaze softened, but her disapproval remained. "Sometimes, Leo, it's not about needing something. It's about being seen, being acknowledged. Mr. Peterson fought for this country, for the right for you to put up those flyers. The least we can do is offer him a cup of coffee." The room seemed to quiet around them, the clatter of the diner fading into a dull hum. She continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "Your grandfather, God rest his soul, always said that a good life is built on small kindnesses. On remembering the names of the regulars, on offering a warm smile, on making sure everyone feels welcome. He knew a thing or two about sacrifice, about service." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, a silent reminder of a life lived with purpose and compassion. Leo looked down, shamefaced. The vibrant enthusiasm that had filled his face moments before was gone, replaced by a quiet remorse. He picked at a loose thread on his apron, avoiding her gaze. I messed up, Grandma Rose. I was so caught up in my own thing that I forgot to see what was right in front of me." Rose squeezed his arm. "We all make mistakes, Leo. The important thing is to learn from them. And to make amends. A veteran story. Just dragging his feet, Rose. And practically stiffed me," Leo muttered, arranging glassware with unnecessary precision. The lunchtime surge had ebbed, leaving a void he filled with chores and a simmering piquer. Rose exhaled, her hand stilling mid-swipe on the countertop. "Leo, come look at this." She beckoned him to a crowded shelf behind the register, a museum of diner history crammed with photos, trinkets, and newsprint. Selecting a brittle, time-worn article, she gingerly lifted it from under a ceramic feline. Though the ink had bled and the edges were tattered, the stark black and white image remained, a younger Art Peterson, his face gaunt, his gaze unwavering, standing before a ravaged building. He was in uniform, decorations gleaming faintly. With reluctance, Leo accepted the fragile piece of history. "What's the story?" "This is Art, Leo. A long time ago. A hero, actually." Rose's tone was understated, yet firm. "Read the caption." He peered at the smudged text. "Hometown boy receives Bronze Star for Valor." Confusion furrowed his brow. "Art?" "Our Art," Rose confirmed with a nod. "Barely out of his teens. Rescued 3 men from a burning tank, braving enemy fire the whole time. Almost didn't make it himself. Still carries shrapnel in his leg, I'm sure." Leo's gaze flickered between the photograph and the entrance, as if willing Art to materialize. The image of the bent, shuffling man he'd hurried out just moments ago clashed violently with the resolute young soldier staring back at him from the past. "He never mentions it," Rose continued softly. "Hates the attention. But we shouldn't forget. Doesn't give us the right to treat him like an inconvenience." She reclaimed the clipping, carefully smoothing its delicate surface before returning it to its place. A wave of mortification crashed over Leo, leaving him chilled. He recalled his drumming fingers, the thinly veiled sigh, the dismissive flick of his wrist. He remembered the almost imperceptible droop in Art's shoulders as he departed. "He's a local legend, Leo. A genuine one. Fought for this country, for us. He deserves respect, appreciation, and a decent coffee with a smile." Rose's eyes, a blend of reproach and expectation, locked onto his. "He deserved better than what you showed him." The consequence of his actions weighed on Leo like a physical burden. The rattle of cutlery from the kitchen, the distant drone of traffic, faded to a dull hum. Fixated on the paltry tip, lost in his own minor grievances, he'd completely disregarded the man before him. A man who had confronted horrors beyond his comprehension. He gulped. I didn't realize." "Now you do," Rose replied gently. "Knowing is the first step, Leo. The next is setting things right. The search for Mr. Peterson." Leo felt the barb of his discourtesy sink deep. More than dismissive, he'd been unnecessarily callous. He pictured Mr. Peterson's bowed frame, the fleeting hurt that momentarily clouded his usually serene gaze. A mere 7 minutes. 7 insignificant minutes he couldn't carve out for a man undoubtedly rich with life experiences. A gnawing guilt twisted in his gut, sharp and acrid. He hadn't even bothered with the man's name until after he'd rushed him off. Arthur Peterson. A veteran. A person deserving of common decency, not curt dismissal. He shoved away from his desk, the cold steel suddenly mirroring the chill in his conscience. The yearning to undo those wasted minutes was a tidal pull, an intense desire to rewind time and offer Art a genuine welcome. He had to find him and offer his sincere regrets. "Mom," he called, an edge of desperation in his voice. Rose was in the living room, bathed in the sun filtering through the window, which illuminated motes of dust pirouetting in the golden light as she read. Her gaze lifted, a soft smile touching her lips. "Yes, dear. Do you know where Art? Mr. Peterson usually goes after he leaves here." He shuffled his feet, avoiding her eyes, the heat of shame prickling his skin. Rose's expression softened, a knowing glint in her eyes. She'd likely overheard everything. "He often visits the Riverside Park, dear. He favors the old oak, enjoys watching the boats glide by." The park. Of course. A Tuesday afternoon, perfect for seeking refuge beneath the sheltering boughs of a tree, watching the world lazily unfold. "Thanks," Leo muttered, already surging towards the door. He exploded onto the sidewalk, the sun a jarring slap against his face. The air hung thick with exhaust fumes and the heady perfume of honeysuckle, a sour note to the lightness he desperately sought. Each footfall felt weighted, burdened by the enormity of his blunder. He hurried past bustling cafes and shops, the carefree sounds of other people's lives a discordant hum in his ears. They were all immersed in their own affairs, oblivious to the petty cruelty he'd just inflicted. The park offered a much-needed sanctuary from the city's relentless din. The air was cooler, imbued with the scent of grass and damp earth. He anxiously scanned the benches, his hope dwindling with each empty space. Children's joyous shrieks punctuated the air as they gave chase to pigeons, a cluster of teenagers plucked at guitars, and couples ambled hand in hand. Still no sign of Arthur Peterson. Then, he spotted him. Beneath the sprawling canopy of the ancient oak, a lone figure sat, his shoulders slightly stooped. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, painting shifting mosaics of light and shadow across his features. It was Art. Leo's pace quickened, a surge of both apprehension and relief coursing through him. He was near. Near the chance to atone for his thoughtlessness. An apology and an ice cream. The park was awash in the golden light of late afternoon. Children shrieked with laughter as they chased pigeons across the paved square, their parents watching from nearby benches. Leo scanned the familiar scene, a knot of guilt tightening in his stomach. He spotted him then, sitting alone on a bench beneath a sprawling oak, a solitary figure amidst the joyous chaos. Art. Leo's steps faltered. He hadn't planned this, hadn't rehearsed a speech. He'd simply felt the overwhelming need to find Art, to somehow undo the sting of his earlier rudeness. The memory of his impatience, his dismissive wave, hung heavy in the air between them. He took a deep breath and walked towards the bench, his palms sweating. "Mr. Peterson?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Art looked up, his eyes, usually twinkling with amusement, seemed clouded with a quiet sadness. He recognized Leo, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. "Leo, isn't it?" Leo nodded, shuffling his feet. I wanted to apologize. For earlier. I was an idiot. And incredibly rude." The words tumbled out in a rush, fueled by genuine remorse. "There's no excuse for how I acted." Art's lips quirked in a faint smile. "Well, son, we all have our moments." He paused, his gaze drifting towards the children playing. "It takes a good man to admit when he's wrong." Leo felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Does that mean you're not mad?" "Mad?" Art chuckled softly. "At a young man in a hurry? I've seen worse things in my time, believe me." He patted the bench beside him. "Sit down, Leo. Tell me what's been eating at you." Leo hesitated, then gratefully accepted the invitation. The rough wood of the bench felt strangely comforting beneath him. He didn't launch into excuses about his demanding boss or the pressure of the lunch rush. Instead, he just said, "I should have been more respectful. You're a customer, and you're a veteran." Art nodded slowly. "That I am." The silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant sounds of the playground. Leo racked his brain for something, anything, to make amends. An idea, impulsive and slightly ridiculous, popped into his head. "Listen," he blurted out, "how about I buy you an ice cream? As a peace offering. My treat." Art's eyebrows rose in surprise. He looked at Leo, really looked at him, and a genuine smile spread across his face, chasing away the lingering sadness. "Ice cream, eh? Now that's an offer a man can't refuse. Especially on a day like this." He chuckled, the sound warm and genuine. "Strawberry, if they have it." Leo grinned, the weight on his chest finally lifting. "Strawberry it is. Coming right up." He stood, feeling lighter than he had all day. Just stay put. I'll be right back." As he hurried towards the ice cream stand, the sounds of the park seemed brighter, the air sweeter. It wasn't much, an ice cream, but it was a start. Maybe, just maybe, he could earn back Art's respect, and more importantly, his own. Stories and gratitude. The ice cream materialized, twin peaks of vanilla and chocolate looming over flimsy, checkered squares. Leo attacked his portion with unrestrained delight, the sugary rush a welcome balm to the sweltering afternoon. Art, in contrast, approached his with hesitant reverence. "Good stuff, who?" Leo mumbled through a mouthful. Art gave a slow nod, his gaze distant, unfocused. "It calls to mind. Belgium. A small town we freed. The baker there whipped up ice cream for the whole company. Vanilla, just like this." A pang of remorse struck Leo, puncturing his earlier impatience. He'd seen art as an encumbrance, a sluggish hurdle in his pursuit of tips. He hadn't fathomed this depth. What was it like, over there? Leo asked, the question barely audible. Art's eyes meandered, lost in the mosaic of the diner floor. It was cacophonous. Dazzling. And then, hushed. A profound stillness. Fleeting acts of unexpected grace. And moments best left buried. He paused, listlessly circling his spoon. I recall being pinned down outside Bastogne. Frigid rain, muck clinging to everything. A medic, a girl almost your age, Leo, she crawled across that field to reach a casualty. Patched him up right there, bullets flying. Didn't even blink. Leo was spellbound. He'd watched war flicks, sure, but this resonated with tangible truth. Art's voice, now a murmured cadence, crafted vivid tapestries of trenches and camaraderie, of stark terror interwoven with valor. He spoke of gnawing hunger, bone-deep chills, and letters from home cherished like sacred relics. He spoke of fallen comrades, their faces permanently burned into his memory. Leo nudged his remaining ice cream away. The sweetness had become cloying, almost a sacrilege. He studied art, his features bathed in the mellow afternoon light filtering through the window, and saw not just an elderly man, but a testament to resilience. Just then, a gentle hand rested on Art's shoulder. "Arthur, so good to see you out and about." Leo glanced up at Maria, a diner regular, her starched white uniform a sharp contrast to the worn surroundings. She smiled, lines radiating from her eyes. "You remember Maria, don't you, Art?" A spark ignited in Art's eyes. "Maria. Always a pleasure, my dear." Maria gave his shoulder a light squeeze. "He's a treasure, this one," she confided to Leo, a knowing glint in her eyes. "He helped liberate my grandmother's village. She never forgot it." She winked. "Now, don't let him spin you too many yarns, he'll keep you here all afternoon." She glided on, leaving a trail of warmth behind her. Art chuckled, a soft rumble. "Maria is a fine woman." Leo cleared his throat, the weight of his prior attitude heavy on his conscience. "Thank you," he managed, the word feeling utterly insufficient. "For everything." "For your service." Art brushed it off with a wave. "That was a lifetime ago, son. Just doing my duty." But Leo understood it was infinitely more than that. It was selflessness. It was fortitude. It was championing something larger than oneself. And he, Leo Maxwell, had nearly dismissed this man, this hero, as a mere inconvenience. A wave of profound gratitude swept over him, prickling his eyes with unshed tears. He reached out and gently clasped Art's hand. "Thank you," he said again, his voice thick with emotion. "From the bottom of my heart." A friendship forged. Drawn by an inexplicable impulse, Leo found himself the next morning on Art's porch. The swing's cushions, patterned with time-worn flowers, drooped like tired smiles. A hummingbird, a blur of emerald, danced around the trumpet vine blanketing the trellis. Leo rationalized his presence, a quick check to see if Art needed assistance with yard work, perhaps gathering fallen leaves or retrieving the morning paper. He discovered Art exactly where he expected, rocking in peaceful rhythm, a cooling teacup releasing wisps of steam beside him. "Morning, Leo," Art greeted, his voice a gentle rasp. "Didn't foresee a repeat performance so quickly." Leo scuffed his shoe on the porch boards. Just checking if you needed a hand. A web of fine lines deepened around ART's eyes as he smiled. Now that you mention it, those petunias could use a drink. Thus began their routine. Leo watered the thirsty blooms, then tackled the encroaching weeds in the rose bushes. Before he realized, an hour had slipped by, filled with the quiet satisfaction of tending the garden and ART's insightful commentary on neighborhood affairs. He learned that Mittens, Mrs. Henderson's feline companion, harbored a clandestine craving for tuna, and that the ancient oak at the street corner boasted a lineage spanning 2 centuries. As days blurred into weeks, Leo's visits blossomed into a habit. He assisted Art with minor chores, replacing burnt-out bulbs and organizing aged photographs. More significantly, he became a listener. He absorbed ART's tales of a rural upbringing, wartime experiences, and the memory of a beloved woman lost too soon. He heard first-hand accounts of Normandy's shores, not from the detached prose of a history book, but from the very man who'd walked them, a man who still bore the weight of those harrowing days in the depths of his gaze. Rose observed a transformation in Leo. Patience had taken root in him, as had a newfound consideration. He even began setting the dinner table unprompted. One evening, while they shared the task of washing dishes, Rose turned to Leo, her face illuminated by a warm smile. "I'm so proud of you, Leo," she said. "Seeing you spend time with Mr. Peterson is wonderful. He's a kind soul, with so much to impart." A blush warmed Leo's cheeks, a wave of self-consciousness washing over him. He just tells captivating stories," he muttered. Rose chuckled softly. "He does. But it transcends mere storytelling, doesn't it? You're gleaning something valuable from him." He knew she spoke the truth. He was internalizing lessons in respect, empathy, and the profound importance of honoring those who had served their country. He was understanding that every individual, even the unassuming old man on the porch, carried a narrative worthy of attention. One afternoon, while assisting Art in clearing out his cluttered garage, Leo unearthed a time-worn box overflowing with medals and commendations. Reverently, he lifted a tarnished silver star, its ribbon bleached by the relentless passage of time. "What's this?" he inquired, or coloring his tone. Art accepted the medal, his fingers gently caressing the inscription. "Just a little something I acquired along the way," he murmured, his voice hushed. Leo scrutinized Art, truly seeing him for the first time, peering beyond the superficial lines etched by age and the occasional lapse in memory. He recognized a hero, a veteran, a man who had selflessly dedicated himself to his nation. The bicycle still lingered at the periphery of his thoughts, a shimmering, seductive prize. However, it no longer held the same allure. He grasped that some treasures transcended monetary value, surpassing the worth of mere possessions. He realized that the burgeoning friendship with Art belonged to this precious category. The pursuit of the bike had evolved into something far grander, infinitely more significant. It was about forging bonds, exhibiting reverence, and cherishing the narratives of those who preceded him.